Good morning, my dear students. Today we are dealing with the topics like trade and World Trade Organizations. These are the important topics of the economic geography. When I am saying the economic geography, you would have remembered that when I was teaching in the earlier class that human geography and the economic geography, isn't it? So, economic geography is the subfield of the human geography, isn't it? So, while I was teaching the human economic activities in the previous class, I have given you that human activities have been categorized mainly into three types: primary activities, secondary activities, as well as the tertiary activities, isn't it? In the tertiary activities, again they have been classified as quaternary activities as well as the quinary activities. In the tertiary activities, simply known as the service sector. In the service sector, trade and the transport both will play a major role, isn't it? So, those two things, trade as well as the transport, today we are going to discuss. First, we will discuss about the trade and how the World Trade Organization, because when I am saying the economic geography, you should remember that, keep in mind that we are talking about the world trade. When we are talking about the world trade, there is a role of the World Trade Organization in the trading, isn't it? That's why we are discussing about two topics like trade as well as the World Trade Organization. So, in this session, we are going to cover these many topics like this. Have a look at that. Introduction, types of trade, history of international trade, basis of international trade, significant aspects of the international trade, components of the international trade, World Trade Organization, objectives of World Trade Organization, as well as the regional trade blocs. So, let us discuss these topics one by one very quickly, isn't it? So, if you go into the introduction part of the trade, so what is trade actually, how it was in the ancient period, why the trade is taking place, did you imagine ever? So, let us answer this all questions, okay? So, for example, geographically speaking, no two places or the no two regions are identical in nature, isn't it? So, they are varying in their geographical, actual as well as the cultural characteristics. What are the geographical characteristics? Like topography, climate, soil, all these characteristics will come under the geographical characteristics as well as the cultural characteristics, isn't it? So, this variation in the geographical as well as the cultural characteristics leading to the interdependency of the region. So, every region is depending on the other region to fulfill its needs in the existing region, isn't it? So, this interdependency is leading to a trade. What do you mean by trade now? Trade is nothing but movement of the goods or services from one place to another place. Why trading is taking place? Because due to variation in the geographical as well as the cultural factors. With the passage of time, what happened? Again, social, cultural, economic, environmental factors all also have been included in this variation. So, due to this all variation in the factors, these all factors, there is a need of trading between the countries, or there is a need of exchange of goods and services between the countries to fulfill the needs of the people who are residing in that particular region or in that particular place. So, this is how the trade has been generated. So, this has been given over here, and if you go how the trade was in the ancient period. So, if you look at the ancient period, the trade was like barter system. What do you mean by barter system? I will tell you. For example, this is A and this is B, okay. A is having wheat with him, and the B is having rice with him. So, in that ancient period, there was no money, isn't it? So, what do? They will exchange the goods from among, okay. A will give wheat to the B and B will give rice to the A. So, that is how there is no intervention of the money over there. There is only exchange of goods. That system is known as the barter system. This is the trade at that particular, that means ancient times, isn't it? So, over the passage of time, in due course of time, what happened? With the introduction of the money, the trade system has become more complex. Why complex? Because introduction money as well as the factors like politics, economic, environmental factors, social factors, all they have been intervened in the trading system. After the intervening of all these characters, trade become has so complex. Now they have been generated with the improvement of the technology and the advancement. The trade centers have been generated or the established. What do you mean by trade centers? Trade centers are nothing but they will do the trade. What do you mean by trade? Then again, buying and the selling, isn't it? Buying and the selling, especially areas with the good transportation network. So these industrial, after this industrial revolution, the emergence of the trade centers have rapidly it has been done, because it has been faster grew in the plain region, plateaus region as well as the coastal areas due to its better connectivity. Again I am saying due to its better connectivity. Why we are saying that the better connectivity? Because if you want to exchange the goods and services or the goods from one place to another place, how do you exchange? With the help of the connectivity, isn't it? If the two places are connectivity is good or transport connectivity is better, then the trade can take place, isn't it? So whenever the trade centers are there, they have been grown in the plain and the plateaus and the coastal areas, because those areas are interconnected with the transportation facilities. That's how the trade centers have been developed in those areas, right? In hilly regions, trade centers often developed near the administrative hubs or the valleys. If you go little bit into the deeper of the trade, deeper of the trade or the history of the trade involves connecting producers as well as the consumers through the transport, markets and the intermediates like wholesalers, retailer, warehouses and the distribution of the agents. So why I am saying intermediate? Because see, consumption, some consumers are one place and the producers are in another place. Who will intermediate, who will act the linkages between these producers as well as the consumers? The trade will act as the interlinkage, or else it linkages between the production as well as the consumption as well as, or else producer as well as the consumers, isn't it? So that's how the trade is nothing but the exchange of the goods and services, and with the passage of time there is also exchange of the ideas between the countries or between from one place to another place. This is how the brief introduction of the trade. You can see this beautiful picture of the trade center which has been depicted over here. Okay, so let us discuss about the next topic is types of trade. Basically the trade, as we have discussed, trade is nothing but the exchange of the goods and services from one place to another place, right? So if this exchange of goods and the services has taken place within the boundaries of the nation, then that is to be termed as the national trade. If this exchange of the goods and services has beyond the boundaries of the nation, that means it is in between the countries, then it is to be termed as the international trade. Okay, so the national trade, exchange of goods and services within the nation, which is known as the national trade, and which can also be done with the trade centers like the rural marketing as well as the urban marketing. National trade can be done with the two centers like rural as well as the urban. Rural, what do you mean by rural marketing? That is nothing but trade can be taken place within surrounding areas or surrounding settlements, wherein urban marketing can be have the more generally concentrated in the metropolitan administration, and this is market for the ordinary as well as the specialized goods and the services. So we are having the two types of trade forms over here, wholesale traders as well as the retail traders. So the difference between wholesale and the retail traders is being two aspects are being discussed over here. First one is the scale and the second one is the client, wherein wholesale traders will sell in bulk to the retailers or the industries or the institutions. On the other hand, retail sellers will sell their goods to the smaller quantities directly to the individual and the household. This is the one difference, and the second difference is the amount of the scale or the quantity, wherein wholesale sellers operate on a larger scale, that is storing bulk products from the manufacturers, like whether it is groceries or the garments or the medicines or the automobile parts or etc., isn't it? They will store the bulk products from the manufacturer, wherein retailer will distribute these products to the individual or the consumer demand, isn't it? So that's how the both wholesalers as well as the retailers act as a intermediaries connecting the producers with the consumer. What after connection, what do? After connection, they will create the job creation or the employment opportunities, due to which there will be the economic growth of that particular region. That's how the various trade forms are. Next, coming to the part of the, as today now we have discussed about the national trade, now we are going to discuss about the international trade. So, as I have discussed that when the trade is it is been between the countries, then it is to be termed as a generally international trade. But again, that international trade is classified into bilateral trade, trilateral trade as well as a multilateral trade. When the two countries have been involved in the international trade, then that is to be known as the bilateral international trade. When the three countries are involved in the international trade, then that is to be termed as the trilateral international trade. When the more than 3 countries have been involved in the international trade, then that is to be termed as the multilateral international trade. So, as I have discussed you that, so in the human societies have the diverse needs, and no region on the earth is self-sufficient to in resources, isn't it? So, every society has to depend on the other society to fulfill its needs, isn't it? So, this creates interdependence between the regions as well as the society, driving trade to the fulfill these variety of the requirements. So, international trade, as we have discussed about, the categorized as the bilateral, trilateral as well as the multilateral. If you look at the international trade or the history of the international trade, it is very interesting, So, international trade has a long history. So, before starting any transportation facility or anything, what happened? The trade used to take surrounding areas, surrounding region. But after the development of the Silk Route, like from Rome to China, that is of 6,000 kilometers, as well as the development of the discovery of sea routes between continents and the countries, what happened? The trade has developed in such a way that it has the made the Asia as the key trade hub, isn't it? So, by the 1800, what happened? Steam powered ships have been developed, due to which has boosted the again international trade. And you imagine that in the pre-industrial era, artifacts and the goods used to export in the Western Europe countries from the India and the China. But after the Industrial Revolution, what happened? The Industrial Revolution transformed the global trade scenario, that with Europe and the USA dominating the early 20th century due to colonial advantages. But after World War II, that is after after World War II, the colonial power has been reduced, it has been closed its roots. Then what happened? The trade has expanded as more nations and the products entered into the market, and the influenced by the decline of the British Empire, the rise of the USA as well as the USSR, and the development of the previously underdeveloped nation. So, today international trade continues to grow, shaped by the social, economic, environmental factors. So, this is the brief introduction of the international trade. So, basis of the, what are the basis of the international trade? Then yes, there are the 2 to 5 basis of the international trade. One among them is distribution of the natural resources. What are included in the natural resources? First one is topography, mineral assets and the climate. What do you mean by topography? For example, if the topography is the shape of the area or the shape of the region. If it is a plain area, agriculture is being practiced. If it is the hilly region, agriculture may not be able to practice, which leads to the agro product industries, and again it will again development of the transportation over there, isn't it? So, if the mineral assets area is there, that means if any area is concentrated with the minerals, it leads to the mineral based industries. Again, if the mineral based industries have been established in that particular area, which led to the again trade, and which led to the transportation facilities, isn't it? So, if you look at the climate, which will affect the flora and fauna of the entire area, and you look that if the climate is cool, what will happen? The wool will be produced. If the climate is in the tropic nature, in climate is, if the climate is tropic in nature, what will happen? They will grow the crops like the banana as well as the rubber and cocoa, which is suitable for that particular climate, isn't it? These all will come under the natural resources. They coming to the part of population. For example, some regions are uniqueness, have their unique characteristics like their art, in terms of their art and the crafts, like Iranian carpets, North African leather and the Indonesian batik, as well as the Indian ikat system, isn't it? They are famous in the worldwide. So these art and crafts are suitable, or they have the unique characteristics of their own countries, isn't it? So based on this also there will be the trade. And the second side is the population side. If the population is concentrated more in the region, what will happen? Internal trade can take place rather than concentrating on the external trade. Of course, there is another factor is labor availability. Impacts farming like rubber, cocoa and the cotton cultivation, because these all cultivation is based on the availability of the labor. Wherever labor is there, so this type of farming can be done. So the third one is economic development. Yes, of course, here it is very important. Agrarian nation. Why I am saying agrarian nation? Because the nations where the labor or the people who are engaged in a non-agriculture activities, those are, that means most of the country's economy is based on the agriculture. So those are called as a agrarian nation. So these type of nation, how the trade can be done? The trade agro products can be done. That means the raw materials will be exported from these countries. Where in industrial nation, what do? They will export the finished goods and they will import the raw materials. So that is how the economic development is also associated with the trade. Then foreign investment. Of course, this foreign investment plays an important role in the developing nation, because investment boosts industries like the mining as well as the oil. So what is the impact of this then? After this creates the food and the mineral exports and the markets for the finished products. And the fifth one is transport. In the ancient time, the limited to high valued goods, but in the modern trade, how it has been changed? Of the introduction of the different means of transportation system, so now the trade has been expanded. So this is how the basis of the international trade. Now look at the significance aspects of the international trade. In the significance aspects of the international trade, we are going to discuss about the three factors like volume of exchange, and the second one is composition of the international trade, and the third one is direction of the trade. So what do you mean by volume of exchange? It is real weight of the goods, isn't it? So this real weight of the goods you can observe from the table, and my dear students, let me tell you that these digits are changing, because academically these digits will change. I have given the digits from 1955 to 2019. If you observe this table, what do you understand that? So volume of exchange of the trade has been remarkably increasing from the 1955 to 2019, isn't it? It will include the real weight of the goods. The second significant aspect is that composition of the trade exports. It is very interesting. What do you mean by composition? So while you are trading, what are the things which are included? What are the things which we are exporting, or else you are importing from the other countries? This I am talking about the worldwide trade, isn't it? So worldwide, which topics or which goods have been included more or maximum, or which goods are being imported into other countries, that has been included in the composition of the trade. So in the previous era or the pre-industrial era, or else ancient times, what used to composition of the trade, what used to have? They used to have the primary items, but after over the passage of time, what happened? In the composition they have included the manufactured items. Then after, in the recent era, they have not only included the manufactured items but also included the service sector commands highest percentage of the global trade, which has been given the composition of the trade exports like they have given, that is raw material, intermediate goods, consumer goods and the capital goods, as well as the same thing the same products have been included in the composition of the trade imports. And the third one is the direction of the trade, which is very important. How the trade was in the ancient period, how the direction of the trade has been changed with the passage of the time. The pattern of global trade has evolved over the time due to historical, what are the factors? Historical factors and the economical factors and the political factors have played an important role in the changing of the global trade scenario. So, in the trade, historical trade, that is developing countries like India and China, as I have discussed earlier also, that they use it to export valuable goods and artifacts to the Europe. In the 19th century, the trade has been shifted like this. European countries use it to export finished goods to the, while importing raw materials and the foodstuffs from their colonies, because we were under the European reign, isn't it? European rule, isn't it? So, in the 20th century, the changes have been taken place after the World War II. Europe lost its colonies, due to which the India as well as the China, like developing nations like India and the China, became competitive in manufacturing and exports section, isn't it? So, current trade, if you look at the current trade leaders, China and the USA, the top global trading nations leading in manufactured goods. So, this data will be changing, try to observe it, because whatever the data is in there in the book, just I incorporated in the PPT, but this data might be changed with respect to the time. Okay, so that's how the nature as well as the direction of the trade will continue to evolve with the globalization as well as the economic growth. Then look at the components of the trade. What are the components of the trade? There are three components of the trade over here, that is balance of trade, and the second one is free trade, and the third one is regional BRAOU. What do you mean by balance of trade? That balance of trade can be defined as like this. It is a difference between the country's exports as well as the imports. A surplus or the positive balance of trade means nothing but the exports are more than the imports, isn't it? So, negative balance trade is nothing but the imports are more than the export. That's how it will show the country's health or in terms of trade, whether it is balance or the positive balance is there or the negative balance is there in terms of imports as well as the export. So, second component of the trade is free trade. What do you mean by free trade? The name itself has a meaning. That means free trade reduces the tariffs or the barriers to allow the easier trade between the countries. Then what is the benefit of the free trade? That means the faster and the wider trade due to globalization, though it has the benefit, but it also has the disadvantage. What is disadvantages? See, whenever we are importing the goods from the other country, so the same goods will be prepared by the local producers also, isn't it? So, but whenever the dumped goods are there from the other countries we have imported, then they have to sold at low prices, but at the cost of this, who will be lose? So, the local producers may be losers, because they will whatever the imported goods are there, you are selling them in the lower prices, wherein the local producer may not able to sell those goods to at lower prices, so he may get loss, isn't it? So, this is also one of the negative aspect of the free trades. And the third one is regional trade blocks. So, regional trade blocks are agreements between the nearby countries to boost the trade. So, key fact is that nearly there are 120 trade blocks are there, which are accounting for the 52% of the global trade. So, what is the purpose of the regional trade block? It will encourage the trade between the region. So, Asian or the SAARC or the EU, these all will come under the regional examples of the regional trade blocks. So, we will see the another aspect of the WTO. So, till now we have discussed about the trade, basis of the types of the trade and the basis of the trades and the components of the trade. Now we are going to discuss about the World Trade Organization. How the World Trade Organization has been evolved. See, in the before this WTO, there was the meeting like Bretton Woods meeting or the conference officially, isn't it? So, known as the United Nations Monetary and the Financial Conference was a gathering of the delegates from the across the 44 nations, and they have met on the July 1st to July 22nd in the year 1944 in Bretton Woods. So this conference has created the three organizations, namely International Monetary Fund, and the second one is that International Bank for Reconstruction and the Development, popularly known as the World Bank, and the International Trade Organization. But International Trade has organization which has not accepted by the US Senate. Then laterwards they have developed the GATT, that is General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. So after 8th meeting of the GATT, what they have decided, that is 123 members countries agreed to establish a trade organization. As a result, WTO was established on January 1st, 1995, and its headquarters was set up in the Geneva, Switzerland. At presently, WTO is having 166 countries, and the recently that Comoros country has been added on 21st August 2024, as well as the Timor Test country which has been joined in the WTO on 30th August 2024. Thus, on this date, that is February 1st 2025, WTO is having the 166 country. So this is the organizational structure of the WTO, and the main objectives of the WTO are implement a new world trade system and the promote the global trade and the ensuring developing countries and the eliminate barriers to free trade and encourage a global economic revival, since trade drives economic growth, and enhance the competitiveness among the trading partners to benefit the consumer, as well as the support the global integration, and the increase the production as well as the productivity to ensure the high employment levels globally, and the optimize the use of the world resources to benefit all the countries, as well as when you are increasing productivity and the production, and you are using optimization of resources, what will happen? These are nothing but to create or to improve the living standards and the accelerate the economic development of the member nations. So these are the guiding principles of the WTO, which are including a non-discriminatory rule based and all those things. And coming to the part of regional trade bloc. So whatever the WTO is there, WTO had been accused of not only taking the side of the wealthier nations, but also ignore the factors like the child labor and the environment. To overcome this point, what happened? The countries have formed the smaller regional blocks to take forward the trade exchange amongst them. Those are the European Union, Gulf Cooperation Council, SAARC, ASEAN, RCEP, BRICS, and the G20, G5, G8, G14 to encourage the trade among the small regions, isn't it? So this is how the regional trade have been developed. So the EU, which is having the single internal market with the 27 countries, this is a beautiful picture. This is the Gulf Cooperation Council having the 6 countries, headquarter located in Riyadh, and the SAARC having the 8 countries, this which stands for the South Asian Association for the Regional Cooperation. It is an intergovernment organization, and the ASEAN and the RCEP and the BRICS and the G7, G8, G20, and these all. So now what we have discussed, different types of trade, basis of the international trades, components of the international trade, as well as the how the WTO has been generated and what are the objectives of the WTO. Thank you so much.